čo sa stane, keď nemá dostatočnú virtuálnu rámku na grafike.
Stuff again, considering apparently now we have some concrete. Yeah, we're going to talk about the 8 GB stuff again, considering apparently now we have some concrete evidence that the 5060 Ti is going to be launching with a 16 gig and an 8 GB variant, just like the 4060 Ti. Not everyone can afford something like this. That's a more realistic card that people might be able to afford in terms of the price point that the 60 series tier cards tend to land in. But we're going to show you in real time now what actually happens and what it looks like when VRAM is your
limiting. Bude veľký problém s tým, že Nvidia vydáva 5060 8 gigovou rámkou s pamäťou a ešte vydal 5060 Titan, ktorá bude mať aj 8 gigovú variantu. Grafik musia zbaviť, nie že ich budú vyrábať.
For those looking for a high-end custom gaming experience, look no further than Falcon Northwest. Falcon Northwest has been building PCs made for gamers for over 30 years with a focus on a true high-end gaming experience. Custom cases available only through Falcon Northwest feature state-of-the-art testing and design to ensure that every component is performing at their best through thermal imaging and rigorous lab testing, designed and overseen by the Falcon Northwest founder himself. With a complete lineup of systems ranging from small to large, every Falcon Northwest system includes a 3-year warranty policy and a year of 2-way overnight shipping coverage, providing the ultimate peace of mind. To see all that Falcon Northwest has to offer, follow the sponsored link in the description below. So this is a 3070 Ti, probably a very similar card that a lot of people are still running today. For whatever reason, NVIDIA continues to be extremely stingy when it comes to the VRAM. So that card has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and if we compare it to some of our charts, like let's for instance just grab a random chart here. Let's go to Borderlands 3. So the 3070 Ti gets us an average FPS of 50.2, and the 6700 XT, which is what I'm holding right here, which looks like Team Rocket binoculars, is coming in at 44.1, so about 6 FPS lower, and that's on a title that is actually favoring AMD cards for the most part. And let's go F1 2024. So if we take a look at 4K again, so our 3070 Ti is getting 36.5 FPS, and our 6700 XT is getting 23.5 FPS. The 6700 XT has 12 gigabytes of VRAM. In fact, you have to really go back into older generations like 6000 series, younger like 6600X.
Ako je to celkom dobrá platná varianta pre ľudí, neviem napríklad to robené. Ono veľa ľudí na to nadáva, na tie grafické karty, ale tak ich Nvidia furt vyrába.
$5700 XT, then you'll start to find where there are 8 gigabytes of VRAM. But AMD knew years ago that more VRAM is going to be useful even if the horsepower of said card is not high enough for the higher resolutions. So these are 4K right here. I still wouldn't say a 3070 Ti is a great 4K gaming card. I certainly would not say that a 6700 XT is a 4K gaming card. But I want to show you what the future looks like if this trend doesn't stop, where we start to put small amounts of VRAM in the more consumer-friendly cards, at least where they're supposed to be priced in terms of being consumer-friendly. The chart that we had up here a second ago, our Stalker 2 charts, this is where we have failures that are happening here. Now the 4060 Ti FE 6 gigabyte, or excuse me, 8 gigabyte, we don't have a 16 gigabyte card, and I wish I did, because the only difference between a 4060 Ti 8 gig and a 16 gig is the VRAM. It's not like the 1060 where there was a 3 gig and a 6 gig, and there was a CUDA core count difference. These are identical cards that only have one has double the VRAM of the other. In fact, what you may have even noticed here is the 95th percentile is 2.1 FPS, where it's 1.7 on the average. We have all the results saved. We can validate, but that's just how bad the card was. In fact, I think I even mentioned that Phil had to like 3 seconds ahead plan his turn because it took that long for it to actually render. The frame that was being drawn at the time that he pushed the input, it took that long for it to actually be processed and presented on the screen. So that is 100% VRAM. I feel like if we had a 16 gigabyte model, we would probably see that number jump up to in the 20s. Probably easily in the 20s. Also too, Google Sheets in all of its infinite wisdom decided to start drawing bar lines for us, or bars, but without putting the labels on there for whatever reason, even though it's all there. So I created a new one, and yes, all the labels are there. So I gotta fix that chart for whatever reason why it's doing that, I don't know, but moving on, it doesn't really matter because of the fact that we are not worrying about the 4070 or 3080 today. We're concerned about the 6700 XT and the 3070 Ti, which is rendering all zeros right there. Okay, so moving on, let me show you what the future looks like for graphics cards that you buy today. And you might be saying, Jay, I'm not playing 4K. You should not be playing 4K with these cards, but this is a future facing problem that will start to trickle down to lower resolutions like 1440p, which is where these cards are capable of playing. You don't.
Oni sú určené na ani na 2K v podstate. Oni sú iba na Full HDčko, viac menej. Oni ani 2K, ani 2K už nezvládajú. 8 GB verzie.
Have enough VRAM. Okay, so I don't understand whatsoever why NVIDIA is being so stingy with the VRAM. And for me, it seems like the laziest way to try and save money when it comes to building a graphics card. And in typical fashion, the update completely blocks us. Anyway, there's a further discussion to have here about VRAM. It's not just about the resolutions that you play at. There's a lot of functions that are in games that require VRAM. For instance, you might be saying, well, it's a lower end card, enabled DLSS to lower the input resolution. That way you could potentially run the game smoother. Well, guess what? DLSS also requires a VRAM amount or hit. A lot of the modern games are starting to require ray tracing. And I say a lot of. I say it's a trend that's going to start really kind of showing up over the next few years as well. Like Indiana Jones was the first title we saw that said ray tracing is required. So that leaves anything older than like a 20 series graphics card for NVIDIA or a 6000 series graphics card for AMD completely off the table of being able to run the title. In fact, if you try and run the game on those cards that do not have RT accelerators in there of some sort, it actually will tell you the game will not run. So this is where it's starting to become an issue because things like ray tracing do also require a certain amount of buffer pool available to it to be able to do that. And obviously 8 gigabytes starts to get chipped away pretty quickly depending on how much the game is requiring. Now some titles are just hogs when it comes to VRAM. Some titles you might run and be like, wow, it's actually pretty light on VRAMs. And some titles you run, you're like, why the hell? Like for me, it's like, why the heck was Phasmophobia, which is an independent, like an indie title, in my ultra-wide, requiring 21 gigabytes of the 24 gigabytes available on my 4090. Well, that's just an optimization problem because indie title. But the point is, it's a scenario that exists. So anyway, while we wait for this update to finish, get ready to throw up because it's pretty gross what's about to happen with a 3070 Ti, which many people would be very happy with today, but are probably going to be very unhappy with in the near tomorrow. Hey, I fixed it. Anyway, we have to also fix our 5070 1% lows. We're going to be rerunning all those tests since we think the driver was being funky. But okay, anyway, here we go. Currently in 4K. Our graphics are exactly as they are for our benchmarks. Everything's the same. Apply just to be safe. You ready? Look at this. Oh, look, even the fading into the game.
Načítovanie
still says 30 FPS for some reason.
Načítovanie sa klaviatúry. Dostal krán.
That's at least a whole second.
No, wait, that's more than that. Look.
Like 2 seconds of input lag.
1, 2, almost
yeah,
3
like 2.5.
But it still says it's running 30.9. It's like locked right there. And look, the FPS goes up when it moves. Watch. Okay, maybe not. But like, what's it doing right there? Look at this. Whatever it's doing here, like the timing, it's like exactly the same. Look at the heartbeat. It's crazy. Okay, here we go. And forward. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think you can count the frames. Okay. Yeah, it actually kind of sped up. Let's play with some settings and see if we can get this playable. Graphics, texture quality. Let's just go high. Just high, that's it.
So one step down from epic.
Yes. Okay, that probably didn't help. Just based on
Zmienił iba jedno nastawienie. On zmienił...
1, 2, 3.
Zmienił iba jedno nastawienie. On zmienił cały... On to nie dał cały.
Get this playable.
Ale
Graphics.
on to jedno nastawienie. Tekst kodu tekstur dał.
Texture quality. Let's just go high. Just high, that's it.
So one step down from epic.
Yes. Okay, that probably didn't help. Just based on the fade. 1, 2, 3, 4. So bad. DLSS. Look at the GPU power now. 275 watts. That's where it's supposed to. Like, the GPU core couldn't even do anything because it was waiting on RAM. So the core just went basically idle, but this is actually not that bad. Oh my god, we lost, like,
On to były teraz výkon z rámky.
Look at the,
Dude,
there they go. Look at that. This looks like I'm
A
playing
grafika.
Team Fortress 2.
A grafika nemá dostatočný pamäť, tak potom začne brať z rámky výkon. Viac menej.
Like the quality of that. Now what we're going to do in a second here is I want to see what the actual util is, but we're then going to throw the 6700 XT on there, which is a much weaker GPU if you were to look at the other charts and the other game titles and stuff, and then show you that even a super weak GPU like that, because it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which makes me wonder if this game really needs like 9 or 10, but then we'll be able to see the difference where we take a slower GPU that has more VRAM and what it looks like on a title that is clearly VRAM intensive. So I want to see right now when it loads the game and it starts to fade to black, if that jumps up. Yep. Dang.
Oh.
It's not even showing obviously a full 8 gigabytes of usage, but essentially this is fully utilized.
Jeez.
That might be the longest we've seen yet on how long it takes to go. Now check this out. If we drop it down to like, keep forgetting I have to hold it longer than it takes to render the frame. If I drop it down to just 1440, now obviously if I was going to be playing this game, I would have to run DLSS for obvious reasons. If I was like, I want to play at 4K, but that's pretty much me being stupid at that point because there's no reason I should be playing 4K anyway with this card. Okay, let's go down to 1440. Leave everything as it is. Yeah, and see, VRAM is now dropped. Ooh, it looks so gross though now. In 1440 on this monitor and this title, it looks so gross. But anyway, oh yeah, the VRAM, as you can see, is down to 6 gigabytes, which is plenty in terms of being freed up for the GPU to be used. Okay, so that's the demonstration of the 3070 Ti. Let's now throw in a weaker card with 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and then let's see what that number goes to. I bet you it's going to be about 10. I think about 10 gigabytes is what it's going to be requesting from us, or from the GPU. Okay, so as you can see, 6700 XT, it's currently using 5.3 gigabytes in the menu. This is a 12 gigabyte card. All the same settings as before, all epic with TA, display, we're in 4K. So this should run. There it is, it just crossed 8 gigabytes. It slowly goes up as you're in the game. That's pretty typical, but it's like the 8 gigabyte cards are just barely not enough. But look at this, look, it's going up as I move, right? That's expected. Because as I do things.
Oh yeah, you're almost at like 9 gigs now.
Yeah. But that's the problem is there's not enough VRAM on the other card to allow it to keep climbing. Now I had guessed it would probably be pulling about 10 gigs. Phil said 9. So far Phil is right.
Oh, it's still climbing. It might eventually get to yours, to 10.
Maybe. I'm eating the wiener.
Nice.
Oh, there's 10.3, 10.4. I'm wondering now if this will actually start to potentially. No, looks like it's kind of capping itself out.
Je to tam, je to
Okay, there's
zajímavé.
12. 12.1? Wait, this is a 12 gigabyte card and not 16, right? There's 12.2. I'm gonna die. It's using 109% of my RAM. Okay, obviously there's some weirdness going on. 13 gigs right there. Okay, 16 gigabytes? That can't be right. 6700 XT is a 12 gigabyte card. Okay, clearly,
32%.
this card is capable of just the amount of VRAM that it has. Now, I obviously we're not using 144% of our VRAM, so I need to figure out, maybe talk to Tap and see what this is about. But the bottom line is we put a slower card with more VRAM in there, and now a title that was absolutely unplayable is now playable. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background and a little bit of demonstration as to why I'm leaning so hard on the fact that nobody, and I repeat, nobody should buy a 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte when it comes out. Absolutely should look at the 16 gigabyte card only. It's important to note right now that this is not official data. It's just what Tech PowerUp has put up on their website as placeholders of what they expect the card to be.
Ako táto 8 gigová verzia, 8 gigová verzia je viac menej odpad.
Maybe they're putting 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 in there. But if this is correct and it's GDDR7,
To
then there's
nemal ani
absolutely no justification of
dokupovať.
giving the 5070 12 gigabytes and the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte versions. Why wouldn't you just make a 5070 have 16 gigabytes? Why wouldn't you just make all of the cards have 16 gigabytes? Because it's not ridiculous. It's not where you save the money, in my opinion, on building a graphics card, especially at the prices they're charging for it. You know they're not losing money. In fact, NVIDIA has raked in, prior to some of the recent like Dow Jones changes, some of the biggest profits they've ever seen
Niekedy sa stávalo aj to,
this is a
že
huge
aj
PSA.
12
Please
giga
let the 8 gigabyte cards sit on shelves. Send a message. I know you're not going to, but in a perfect world, I think you should ignore the 8 gigabyte card. It shouldn't exist. Those dies are being utilized in a gimped platform like the 8 gigabyte card when they all should be making their way to 16 gigabyte variants, and they should cost at most $20 more than the 8 gigabyte card. It is absolutely
keď tam chce hrať na
to the memory allocations. It's been this way for quite a few generations now, and it continues to just be the same stupid segment of graphics card for NVIDIA to like, let's have a 60 tier card and let's just put double the RAM in one and half the RAM in the other, and the sheeps will buy it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please, if you have friends that are going to be buying graphics cards and they're not aware, tell them don't get an 8 gigabyte card. It's not going to be enough in the future depending on how long you hang on to it. There's a reason why AMD is putting 16 gigabytes in all of their cards today, whether they're low end or high end. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Pravda. 8 gigové grafiky sú už viac menej musia ísť do zabudnutia. Nikto ich nemá používať. Tak asi NVIDIA neuvedomí to, že už to není potreba. Už to ľudia nechcú.